Welcome, YouTube family. Welcome to Ujima Wednesdays. Welcome to Ujima, where we are creating a arts, business, and investment ecosystem here in Boston for and by our BIPOC communities in Boston, particularly working class. On Open Wednesdays, we focus on financial and political education through workshop. And so in those workshops, we are co-creating, co-leading together with our members and community alike. We also feature our member teams after our workshops, where we focus a little bit more and kind of zone into our theme, different areas of study. And this month in particular, we're focused on land and real estate, but tonight is co-direct, where we provide information, updates about the organization, decision-making, and invite discussion around that. So welcome. And I know I didn't say this before, but this is Johnny Charles, pronouns listed, he, him, his, Managing Director, Ujima Fund. And we will go ahead and start. So one update in particular I'll start with is new member team. And so before I mention that team, UNESCO in particular is sunsetting. For those who are not familiar or have not heard the update. It's been featured in our wire recently, but UNESCO sunsetting, and out of that are two groups. One is the study team, and the second is participatory planning. The participatory planning team will be launched in February. The study team has already begun. And the study team currently right now is focusing on community land trusts as a study and a focus. So just as an update. And the second update, Ujima Fund investor statements are out, has been recently. Oh.
John, can I add to that really quickly? So yep. Just wanted to say what the study team is really quickly. The study team is a space for unagendaed study. So if you've been working with our member teams previously, if you're newer and you're kind of getting to know our member teams, you know that we aim for there to be quite a bit of alignment between the work that the member teams are doing and what Ujima staff is doing. The study team is an intentional space where we're not seeking that direct kind of alignment. So Ujima members and other community members who are showing up in that space, it is a space for them just to follow their inclinations. And so that group has chosen last month and this month to continue studying community land trusts. And that happens to be an area that Ujima is interested in and supporting and does support in different ways. And again, we've not sought that direct alignment. So this is an open invitation, and the study team has asked us to do this to encourage you all to consider showing up to that space, contributing to that space, and seeing it as a space that's available for open learning. And they meet every, I want to say, second Wednesday. Yes, November 10th, next week is the next meeting. They meet every second Wednesday. So feel free to drop in. It's a member team, but again, it's a little different in that it really is set up as a place for open study. Participatory planning that Johnny mentioned, that's going to launch in February, will be more like the other member teams in terms of acting in direct alignment with Ujima staff. And the idea there is to take some of the assembly operations that we do at the staff level, and the UNESCO team did this with the needs assembly that they planned on our behalf in February of this year. And just continue to do more of that kind of work. So if you're intrigued by our democratic process, if you're intrigued by our assemblies, if you'd like to be helpful in those areas, if you have ideas, if you have questions about participatory processes in general, again, as I said, our assemblies, our different democratic processes, then you'll want to just watch out for the participatory planning team launch in Tuesday, because we'll be looking to work closely with that team to refine our current processes and to think of new ones. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you, Nia. No, those are all important points. And the next announcement or update is investor statements. Specifically in the investor statements, it specifies and details your respective investment. So what note you invested in, what's the term, where are you, and then provide space for you to make a decision in terms of forwarding interest. And I just want to make sure I have everything there. It's so pretty much it's an update, and it gives you a general statement of what your investment looks like, and more information about your investment in general. And so I think this is our first time actually sharing one of these, our investment reports. So this is us really responding to the needs of our community and the requests of our community for more communication, and particularly some more insight and details about their investments and where it is and where it's going. So this is I would say the second start, because the first start I think is the investor report. The second has been individualized investor statements. And so that has been released relatively soon, I think just the past week. So if you're even in the space, I'm just thinking in general, if we don't have your email, if you're hearing us through the YouTube channel and you have not received something as an investor, please engage with us by sending an inquiry or an email over to invest@ujimaboston.com, so we can respond as soon as possible. And Nia's put that in the chat as well too. So yeah, anything else, Nia?
Sure. Thank you, Johnny. Yeah, and thank you for mentioning anyone we may have missed. So we have around 370 investors, and around 300 statements went out. So we definitely we don't have everyone's email address on file. So as Johnny said, if you're listening to this, if you're reading the notes and you're saying, hey, I'm in an investment and I did not get a statement, please reach out to us and we will generate one for you right away. Moving forward, these statements are intended to be annual and to be sent at the beginning of the year, along with any along with any corresponding tax forms. And we send out tax forms to anyone who has received interest, an interest payment from us in the year. So not everyone gets one. We only send it out in the instance that we have paid out interest on your investment. Thank you, Johnny.
Thanks, Nia. And then I think we're hearing from Paige.
Yes, hi everyone, and apologies if there's any background noise coming through. So in terms of updates on the Ashe Cultural Assembly, as a lot of you know, we hosted a series of workshops on artists' political power, and we just wrapped that up, I believe, last week or so, which was really awesome. We also hosted a great opening reception and sort of grant Q&A for folks who were interested in the grant. And as you all know, the Cultural Assembly grant is still live to apply to. So please consider applying or share it with folks that you know might be a good fit. We're keeping the application open until November 5th or so. And you can apply at bit.ly/Ashe grant. If someone can also drop that in the chat. I also wanted to add that we do have an early ballot draft that we are sharing with our Ashe Assembly partners. And we're going to be circulating that with our voting members in the coming weeks. And that is going to be a ranked choice ballot. So everyone will be able to vote for the top 3 awardees for that grant. So just keep that in mind and look out for that in the coming weeks. I think that's all I had. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Paige. And before we go into our discussion topics, I'll just pause just to see if anyone has any questions or any feedback for the updates that we just gave. Okay, great. Let's go into our discussion topics. We have three. So the first that we'd like to discuss a bit with you is our voter affirmation process. So I think we mentioned this maybe one co-director, two co-directs ago. Our voter affirmation process is a new process for us. And so this is something we created to get a more refined understanding of the decisions that our voting members actually want to make. One of our lessons from our spring ballot, which had four kind of different questions or different decisions that were pretty big, was, well, maybe not everyone wanted to make every decision. And really the one we were thinking about in particular was the first ballot that we rolled out, which asked members which financial institutions we should place our undeployed cash in. And we had put that decision to members because we had been getting some members asking us that question. And so it felt like, oh, maybe people would really want to weigh in on this and really want to vote on this. And we definitely got different types of feedback from people who felt ill-equipped to make a decision like that, to people who were just kind of like, well, I was curious, but didn't necessarily want it to be left up to me. And so for us to try to get at a more refined understanding of the difference between something that a member is just curious about versus just kind of just wanting to know what we are thinking, versus no, I absolutely want to have an impact on the decision that is made here. Is our voter affirmation process. And so what we do is we send out a voter affirmation form to all of our voting members. It also serves as just kind of cleaning up our records a little bit because people join Ujima at different times in their lives, and have what may have a certain excitement about Ujima at one time, and it may shift in a couple of different directions over time. And also their time may be looking a certain way in terms of what they can commit to and contribute and participate, et cetera. So it also just kind of allows us to keep track of that. But what we do is we ask members, do you want to retain your voting membership? So we say, we have you listed as a voting member. Do you want to retain your voting membership? In the instance that a person says, yes, I would like to retain my voting membership, we then preview the upcoming decisions. So for example, upcoming decisions are the cultural assembly, so the cultural grants that Paige just talked about, and then a real estate assembly that'll be kicking off soon with the aim of ratifying a real estate investment list. So we preview those two upcoming assemblies and decision-making moments and ask, which one do you anticipate participating in? Voting members have the option to choose one or both or none. In the instance that a voting member says, I don't want to retain my voting membership, we then ask, okay, would you like to switch your voting membership to a different membership? And the two options that we present are resident membership, which is a new membership category that we've created to still account for people who live in Boston proper, working class people of color, particularly who live in Boston proper, but who are not voting. So it's a non-voting membership that still essentially registers. We have a member who's a working class resident or person of color in Boston, or solidarity membership. And most of us are familiar with what solidarity memberships are. Solidarity members are people who live outside of Boston proper, or people who say, I don't identify with one or some of the kind of preferred criteria for voting members. So I don't identify as a person of color, or I don't identify as working class. And so even though I do live in Boston, I don't want to participate as a voting member. I'll take it as solidarity membership. So ideally, we want everyone to fill out this form. So as I said, this lets us know who's still interested in being a voting member, and then lets us know who wants to participate in what decision. And our goal is to then take the outcomes of both of those forms and then use that to determine quorum for each decision separately. So generally our quorum for a decision is 50% of voting members plus one. And so what we now want to do, again, really just kind of getting at a more refined understanding of who wants to decide what, is to set quorum for each decision with this process. So for example, when I last talked about this, we had just released a form. We had gotten about 10 forms back. I would say out of those 10 forms, maybe 2 or 3 said, switch me to Solidarity membership. I'm not a person of color. Another person, I think, switched to resident membership. And then most people said, you know, I want to continue my voting membership. And then we saw that maybe about 3 or 4 chose to participate in the real estate assembly. And then the remainder kind of chose to participate in both. We have about 90 forms that are completed now. So we've been sending out weekly reminders via text that have been effective, and we've been sending bi-weekly emails. We have around 390 voting members, so we need a lot more people to complete these forms. So what I'd like to drop in here is our phone, text, and email bank list. We sent out an email to Solidarity members, I want to say either last week or the week before last, asking Solidarity members to be helpful with reaching out to at least one person on the list just to help us get these numbers up. And again, we want 100% participation on this. So to help get us to a place where everyone is participating and they're letting us know what their preferences are. So I've just dropped it in the chat and ask you, if you are a Solidarity member, to try to choose at least one name to reach out to say, hey, Ujima really needs you to do this. It helps them know who wants to decide what. And the flip side of that, it helps us stop bothering you. So if the response is, I don't want to vote in anything, you know, I was just being supportive in the beginning, became a member, I donate, etc. Not so much interest, not so interested in the voting part, which we've definitely heard from some people. We want to know that. Glad to see that not everyone is choosing both, because again, that lets us know people are really thinking about how they want to contribute meaningfully. So we want to know if you don't want to vote in the cultural assembly, or if you don't want to vote in the real estate assembly. So it's really helpful again to us to have everyone participate and for us to know what your preferences are. And I will leave it there, and I'll pause for any questions or feedback. Kelsey?
This is super dope. Really excited for y'all, as always. So excited for y'all. Is there like a script or something that Solidarity members and folks participating can do?
Yes, excellent question. Thank you so much, Kelsey. So in the spreadsheet at the top, in the first,
there it is.
Yeah, and I was pausing because I was trying to figure out, am I saying row or column? But yes, it's row. So in the first row, you'll see LinkedIn. We have scripts for both sending a text message, making a phone call, and sending an email. I definitely feel like, and Ujima, we definitely feel like text is pretty effective. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kelsey. Thank you for that question though, because I did miss it. Any other questions, feedback? All right, cool. Thank you. So we'll go to the next discussion item, and that is you, Johnny. You're up.
Thanks, Nia. The next, we are hiring. We are hiring for a fund administrator, particularly working on the fund. And a couple of things that they would be doing among a list really coordinating around due diligence activities. For those who are less familiar with due diligence, really, let somebody in. Pretty much the organizing and orienting of an investment. And so gathering documents related to financial analysis, documents related to um, really identifying the organization as it's registered through Secretary of State, and those things all kind of all kind of are entailed in due diligence. Also in due diligence are the calculations and the analysis that are done, and that person can also help out with that as well. The other piece that they be doing is manage daily accounting operations, as well as really responding to inquiries related to our investors, so our investor inbox, and think a little bit more about how to best support our investors in the long term. And then there is a couple of CRMs that we are that we have that we've instituted, but really kind of need to kind of just ramp up in terms of activity and making sure that they're part of our everyday operation. One is a servicing software, particularly for loans completed. And another is a CRM that's really focused on organizing documents and information as they come in. But also, if it's used right and utilized effectively, it's a good, strong communication tool between us and our community, but prospective borrowers. And so someone who's really kind of familiar with Microsoft Office, but also familiar with CRMs, and are not necessarily afraid to kind of use it as a tool and has the experience of doing that, but also would be good too, is that they are interested in fund management. And so this is there's a possibility to really kind of grow within this space also as well too, and really learn what it means to really kind of manage a fund all around. So there's space for growth in this opportunity as well too. And so whether that's you or somebody you know, feel free to share the job description widely, because we are looking for folks.
And the job description, thank you, Johnny, has been dropped into the chat. And I'll just pause for any questions, feedback. Okay, Julian said access seems to be restricted. Thank you. I will, let me just find the right page here. Let me take care of that right now.
Okay. And
Did
while
you do it, Johnny?
No, I'm trying to get into it now.
Okay. I'm in there. Let's see. Okay. Okay. I have just updated the settings, Julian, so you should be able to get in there now. Let me know. Okay, great. Looks like he's in there. Thank you, Julian.
Perfect.
And our last discussion item for the night is, sorry, I was getting ready to sneeze. Just wanted to talk about the Loving Embrace Real Estate Assembly. So Johnny talked about that a little earlier in the events slide. Just like to give you a little more color. So as Johnny said, November is Land and Real Estate Month at Ujima. So that is in honor of our real estate assembly. So some quick background, and I can't remember if I've talked about this before or not, but at the end of October, we started an exploration with Fenway CDC and Somerville Community Corporation, which is also a CDC, to look at what it would look like to marry Ujima's participatory process with their work, particularly in the direction or in the service of community ownership. So one of the things that we do know right now is the Ujima Fund does not make community ownership of property possible as is. People pull their resources in the fund, and then we all collectively make investment decisions, but there isn't any there isn't any mechanism that allows an individual to kind of own a piece of an investment, and thereby to then kind of what's the word, mediate or precipitate community ownership. So we've been having a couple of parallel conversations as a part of that exploration. One, what can happen with the Ujima Fund as it's currently constituted? We already know we can't do community ownership of real estate, but what can we do? So how can our participatory process connect with the work that these two CDCs are doing? That's been one conversation. And the next conversation is, and what do we need to create to actually be able to allow for community ownership of real estate? And that has taken us actually in a pretty exciting direction. So where we have landed is what we can do is we can actually apply our participatory process to real estate investment, just not community ownership. As an aside, real estate has always been an intended part of Ujima's portfolio. What we ran into early on, and we had a sense we would need to develop a bit of a different process, was that our assembly process as is, which is asking community members and Ujima members to name businesses that they love, need, and would like to replace, did not elicit very specific real estate investment opportunities. What we were able to unearth in our needs assembly was the number one need, which was affordable real estate for housing and commercial real estate. But that's general. And so that isn't a surprise. So most of the businesses, if you look at our Roxbury investment plan, our Dorchester investment plan, and our Mattapan investment plan, not surprisingly, you see a lot of food businesses on the list. You see a lot of consumer facing retail businesses, and that makes sense. Those are businesses that people interact with often, people see, people know. Development is a different story. There are going to just be, I think, certain community members who are intimately involved in development processes one way or another, that are going to have these opportunities on their radar, and then even then take the next step to then name it at a Ujima assembly. So we've had some sense probably there's going to be some type of different process that governs real estate investment. So here's what we're doing. In November, soon, we are in November, but later in November, we will make available on the landing page that we dropped in, the necessary.system/real estate, investment opportunities that our partners have available. So what I'll add to that is Co-Everything, which is run by Miriam G. and Declan Keefe, who are both Ujima members, and so who some of you may know have later joined this effort and are now formal partners of this effort. So Co-Everything, Miriam will make available an opportunity that she's working on with a group of people in Dorchester who are opening up a crowdfunding opportunity for a building. Can't say too much more than that because they're bound by some strict rules. There is another community member who works pretty closely with us, who's been working with a group of Black developers that are putting together a 2-pager that's a little more conceptual around the type of development that they would like to essentially shepherd in Boston. So once they make that available, we will put that up on the site, and essentially Ujima members will be asked to essentially vote on that group because they don't yet have any kind of buildings, so to speak. We've been in conversation with a couple of other community partners and community organizations who were still thinking about different real estate investment opportunities that they'd like to put in front of Ujima members for consideration for a real estate investment list. And so that is what our assembly will be. It'll be a little different than in the past. So if you've participated in our past assemblies, you're used to kind of list of 180 businesses. Another refinement that we're making is trying not to overwhelm people with too much information at one time. So we're looking at no more, for example, than 10 opportunities being on this list to really give members an opportunity to digest all of the information about each opportunity, and to really kind of know enough space has been given to really consider each opportunity fully. So that's one of the things that will be happening. It'll be running over the month of November through to December. What we will also be doing is offering educational opportunities. So Co-Everything is going to offer 2 educational sessions on real estate investing. One is Real Estate for All that they've done previously this past summer that I've heard wonderful things about. I think the date that we have for that, if I'm not mistaken, is November 17th. We just need to get a time and then we'll throw it up on the website. We've talked about this already. Boston Impact Initiative is going to do their impact investing game with us next Wednesday and the following Wednesday. So that will be our workshop for the month. And in that impact investing game, they will focus very specifically on real estate investing. I've heard the game is a lot of fun, as well as educational. So very excited about that. And as you all know, Boston Impact Initiative is our sister fund. Much of our fund design is based on theirs. We've gotten quite a lot of learning from them. And so this continues that relationship of just continuing to learn and grow together. So that's next Wednesday and the following Wednesday. It is a card game. So if you're interested in playing that game, we do encourage you to order the cards ahead of time. So if you go to and I'm just going to try to kind of go back up in the top and pull these links up again. I'm dropping in the link for the impact investing game. That takes you to our Eventbrite for the real estate assembly. Once you order those 2 tickets, what will happen is you'll get a kick out that will take you to Boston Impact Initiative site where you can order the cards directly. Is pay what you can plus more, so it's sliding scale. And in the instance that anyone cannot pay anything for the cards, there is also a set of instructions about what you can do to communicate that and to work with Boston Impact Initiative to get your deck of cards before next Wednesday or the following Wednesday. There are virtual cards. So if the date comes and you decide at the last minute, oh, actually, yeah, I do want to show up, but I didn't order my cards. They are prepared to make virtual cards available. But I think if you're thinking of something you want to participate in, you might just want to get the deck of cards because you might just want to use it again. And again, like I've said, the game's a hit. They've used it with a bunch of different kind of different fund cohorts that they've worked with. So these are other communities that want to create a fund where they are, and funders, et cetera. So lots of different types of groups have used this to learn and have had fun learning. Additionally, Fenway CDC and Somerville CDC or Somerville Community Corporation are going to put their heads together for an educational session. So they're going to give us the day and time, or we'll throw it on the website. CFNE is considering doing an educational session very specifically on co-op housing and what the mechanisms are for financing co-op housing. And waiting to hear back from DSNI, who may do a session very specifically on community land trusts. So hopefully that wasn't too rambly, but in short, in our real estate assembly, let me find that landing page one more time to drop that in. That's going to be kicking off soon. Here's the landing page where you can be kept abreast of the different educational opportunities. When the real estate investment opportunities come in that will want Ujima members to preview and let us know what they think, they will go up there as well. Finally, just want to mention one more event that we talked about in the event list. Is the Co-op Power Boston launch. So really that's kind of kicking off the month. That's tomorrow night. and really interesting project with community-owned solar. Again, Miriam G is involved in that, Ujima member. Glenn Lloyd is another Ujima member who's involved in that. So definitely, if you all have opening tomorrow evening, please check that out, and I will drop that. I will look for that and drop it. You got it, Johnny?
Drop it, yeah.
You dropped it in? Okay, great. So Johnny just dropped it in the chat. So really excited about this. And then last piece is our wire last week was land and real estate edition. Really great edition that was written by Sierra. And the focus was Black cities and towns. And so what we wanted to do there was kind of move beyond a singular narrative of Black Wall Street. So a lot of times so Black Wall Street has become more of a mainstream narrative, which is good. So this notion of Black towns that were self-sufficient and that were fully resourced. And so with that, what gets talked about now, again, which is great, is Tulsa, Oklahoma, and hardly the only city. And so for us, it was really important to kind of go beyond this kind of singular narrative, or to kind of have a narrative around Black self-sufficiency and self-determination, really only focus on one location, but really kind of drive home that we had an era where we had a lot of these cities and towns and they were destroyed. So there's an interesting piece of history in there actually about the whole state of Oklahoma, which definitely for me put Tulsa in context. So it kind of explains why there's a Tulsa, Oklahoma that we talk about, because there are other cities and towns in Oklahoma that were created. And it's not without tension with indigenous stories, because that was indigenous land. So that also is an important part of the narrative. Also talks about Eatonville, Florida, who some people may recognize from Zora Neale Hurston's narratives. And I'm trying to think if there's a couple other towns that I mentioned, but it's a great wire. I highly recommend it. A lot of really good history folded into that. And then it just kind of, I would say, poses the question. So there's a graphic that heads that station that says "Doing Us Uninterrupted." And so it really just kind of poses this notion of thinking about what it looks like to have that level of creativity and have that level of productivity, and it's not destroyed. And so that's that kind of doing us uninterrupted. And so there was just a question there too, just about what that looks like today. So if you didn't get a chance to catch that last week, I do highly recommend it. And I will pause to see if there are any questions or feedback or any reflections. Okay, well, that wraps up our co-direct tonight. Thank you all. And I will toss it to Johnny to close us out.
Keep it real simple. Thank you all for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you all, if you can make it in terms of the YouTube family, make it out to next week's Open Wednesday. If not, be prepared to view this again or the next edition. So have a great night. Thank you so much.
Bye.